Okay, so this is zone 1. This is where the player begins the level at the crash site, which is represented here. And obviously this is in a nearby park. We have the grass, we have the walls, and we have an open gate, currently open gate. Now, the player essentially exits the ship initially by using their plasma sword on the door, so that's what would essentially happen here, and Zed's outside. Now at this point there are civilians in the park who flee upon seeing Zed out of the gates, and the police arrive. So at this point the police will lock the gate in and basically barricade Zed in. Now what Zed needs to do, and the player has to attack all the relevant policemen. They are pretty much just pawns in the game really, so nothing too intense. Once that's completed, upon approaching the gate there will be some of those amazing twitching Lego pieces that you always see on the floor. So you'll build those up either side, one here and one here, which will then act as switches to open the gate. Zed will then be controlled by the player to go onto the street outside, where they will enter the start of zone 2. Okay, so we've now exited the park and we are in what is essentially known as Zone 2. Now, this is a closed off street which has essentially been closed for development and building works. Now, as you can see, we're on cobbled ground. We have the building with the rooftop alignment, the road closed signs. That's just pretty much an obvious sign that you can't go down there. There will be some pickups scattered in front of both. There's also advice that you can't go up the side of this scaffolding here, and this is just a Parisian restaurant just purely for decoration, and maybe have some tables and chairs outside which you can smash up. Now at this stage the player will have to navigate themselves towards the scaffolding. Now once they reach halfway up the first one, what will then happen from here is, well, essentially Donkey Kong. The scaffolding will have barrels falling down from the other levels, so they will be arranged in a way like this. So here's your top level, and then there's your next one, your one following that, and then your ground level. Now Zed has a double jump, so you essentially can clear these fairly easily. There's a bit of challenge involved because they are sent at random times. So based on that leveling, so go up that way, and then up this way to the top. Now at this stage there are a few pickups on here. These are essentially representing cover elements, so just building works, cement mixers, that kind of thing. Now there will be some pickups here, health pickups, plasma, because essentially spread out within this, patrolling the area, are FBI agents who have been sent to essentially cover everything up, because aliens don't really exist, do they? Now once that's been proceeded, Zed will then reach this part of the level. All the FBI agents have been killed. He will build essentially this little ramp here from the amazing twitching Lego bricks as before, and then down to zone 3, down the rubbish chute. Okay, so at this point then the player has made it down to zone 3. This is essentially the main square in front of the Eiffel Tower, the main kind of objective for the player to reach. Now at this point there will be a shortcut scene where when Zed goes down the chute, civilians in the area will obviously take a look at him and leg it. In addition to that as well, there'll be all various activity. A delivery truck which is carrying gas canisters for, well, why not, just the local businesses in the area, has dropped several in the rush to escape. So there's big gas canisters evenly spread around the square. Now at this point the army's been called in because, well, the police have not dealt with it, the FBI has not dealt with it, and well, the army has been brought in to sort out the situation. Now what basically the player has to do here is, well, essentially kind of use a different style of attack. It's a much more tactical kind of way of disposing of the tank. Now the tank itself, being armoured, cannot be affected by any plasma sword hits, projectiles, or even area of effect plasma. Now what the player will essentially have to do is determine the cycles that the tank will go through. Now the tank will initially begin by sighting the player and firing projectiles at them. Now the player essentially at this point is purely defensive. They can't attack. So as Zed has the ability to jump twice as high as any other Lego minifigure, he can jump over the blasts. So, essentially the blasts, they can hit him, but there are some health packs around the area. Now, the tank itself will then enter a second cycle where it will essentially attempt to ram the player. Now, what the player needs to essentially do, they may not figure this out the first time, but that's part of the learning. Now, the player will be located at a point where the tank will charge, so they'll literally go for them, and if they jump out the way, then they'll just stop around about here. So, using the explosive gas barrels which are spread around the square, what the player can do is, after the wave of projectiles has been fired at them, if they stand in front of one of these gas canisters, the tank will charge, and bang, that's a hit, because the gas canisters explode and the tank is damaged. Now, what the player needs to do is complete this task for each of the gas canisters. There's 4 in total. That will be enough to weaken the tank, make it explode, and essentially break up, and, well, many bonuses there. Now, the player at that point has completed all playing of the level. There will be a cutscene where the Zed here will basically get out his shrink ray, shrink the Eiffel Tower, mission objective complete, and let's leg it back to the ship.